original structures were built and maintained by enslaved laborers. We further wish to acknowledge the history of violence, displacement, and racism that led to UVA's establishment and maintenance. It is important for us as the university community to reflect and address the complicated past and present of our university during our time here as students. A special thanks to the Native American Student Union at UVA and Multicultural Student Services for helping write this land and enslaved laborers acknowledgement. I'll also be dropping a link in the chat that allows you to check which native land you currently occupy.
Thank you, Booker. Welcome, everybody. My name is Abel Liu. I use he, him, and his pronouns. I'm a third year, rising fourth year, studying economics and sociology in the college. I'm the student council president for this next year. I only have a few updates today. First, the meeting that Cece, Ryan, so the VPA and VPO respectively, as well as Jaden, our director of finance, had with the student activities committee went very well. And some of the outcomes of that meeting will be reflected in the budget tonight. I'm really excited to talk about it together. There's lots of fresh stuff in there, which is great. I'm meeting with Dean Groves and President Ryan this week, so if you have anything pressing that you'd like me to bring up, please feel free to Slack me, hopefully tonight. And then beyond that, things are really winding down. We have lots on deck over the summer. We'll probably have a couple of special sessions to pass legislation. But it's been a pleasure working with you all over the last, now just over 3 weeks. So I'm excited for the year to come. Have a good summer.
Hi all, my name is Cece Kane, she, her pronouns. I am the VPA and I don't have any updates today, really, except for I'm happy this is hopefully the last Zoom Gen Bod and we can see each other in person at Gen Bod next year. So very excited to work with you all over the summer. And also just a reminder, I know Gabby's reminded the reps and probably will again, but tomorrow it's mandatory for most of exec in the rep body. We're having a special session for the budget at 6:30 and you should have gotten an invite on your Google Calendar. If not, please reach out to me.
Hi everyone, I'm Ryan. I'm the Vice President for Organizations. I use he, him, his pronouns. Just 2 quick updates. The first is that we're pushing the Equity and Incentives Director application deadline back to a little while after finals over. Our finals are over. That way, people who are interested have some time to work on it without having to worry about classes. And then the second thing is, so I meant to introduce the org bill today. There was a slight medical emergency over the weekend, so we'll be introducing that bill during a summer legislative session, and we'll make sure those orgs all get passed. And that's all I have.
Hi everybody, my name is Gabby Hernandez. I'm a second year, my pronouns are she, her. I'm majoring in global development studies and archaeology, and I have a couple of updates, I guess, minor updates. So we've chosen a representative body leadership team. They're going to be introducing themselves during rep reports, and that's pretty much it. And just I'm excited to work with you all during the summer and in the fall. Thank you.
Everyone, my name is Ryan Alcorn. I use he, him pronouns. I am the Chief of Cabinet and an incoming Batten student. I want to welcome all the new members of the cabinet agencies. This week, directors from the admin branch came to our cabinet meeting to discuss survey design and marketing. The International Student Affairs directors, Avni and David, authored a statement of support and resources for international students impacted by the recent wave of coronavirus cases and deaths overseas. The statement was endorsed by the executive board and will be released shortly. And even though we won't be in class, the cabinet will continue to work through the summer to develop a policy strategy, meet with stakeholders, CIOs, community members, and administrators, and begin the process of implementing our policy agenda. A full list of cabinet policies will be available during the summer when the Student Council website is updated for the 2021-2022 administration. Thank you.
Hey everyone, my name is Maheen Sanchez. I use he, him pronouns, third year government major in Batten MPP, and the Chief of Support and Access Services. The only update I got is all our directors have been onboarded. We had a great first branch meeting yesterday. Really looking forward to the work that we're going to be doing over the summer and throughout the year. And other than that, we're just winding down for the semester. So.
Hey everyone, I'm Booker. I'm a second year. I use he, him, his pronouns, and I am the Director of Coalition Engagement. I don't have any updates right now, but I am excited to get started in the summer and continue on into the fall.
And hello, my name is Macy Brandon. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a third year and I'm the director of University Relations. My only update is just to continue sending headshots for all of my representatives and directors. And thank you to all who have already.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Yes, we are definitely winding down for the semester, but we do have a few leadership reports. We'll start with the cabinet.
All right, thank you, Abel. We will start with academic affairs.
Hi, guys. My name is Adriana Gao, and I'm the Deputy Director of Academic Affairs, filling in for Casey today. And I'm just here to announce the winners of our annual teaching awards that we honor outstanding faculty members every year. And students have the opportunity to nominate their favorite professors. And I'm just going to announce the recipients: Trenton Merricks, Janet Herman, Bradley Reed, Paul Halliday, Katie Stranix, Vanessa Ox, John Lyons, Sarah Milov, Daniel Quinn, Brad Carson, and Jenny Chio. We'll be sending them certificates later in the semester soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Adriana. Next, we will go to international student affairs. And would Avni or David like to speak?
I can go. Hi, everyone. My name is Avni Garg. I'm a second year in the college. I am one of your co-directors for International Student Affairs this year. And recently, David and I, in collaboration with Macy, Ryan, and Abel, authored a statement of support for our international student community, particularly with regards to the second wave of COVID-19 that is sweeping many countries right now. And we are specifically mentioning India because of the situation there. We have resources attached to this statement and a link which allows people to donate. And we would just encourage you to get every international student you know to see this statement, because you never know, it might just take seeing a statement of support to make someone realize that there is help out there for them. And please, 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 please have them email us with any concerns they have. We have very little data and understanding of the international student population right now. And the more we hear from them, the more we can help them, and the more we can create a better UVA for them as well. So thank you all.
Well said. Thank you, Avni. Let's go next to legislative affairs.
Hi, everybody. My name is Bianca. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a co-director of the Legislative Affairs Agency. Just wanted to send everyone a quick reminder that the deadline to register to vote or update your voter registration for the June primaries is Monday, May 17th. If you're requesting an absentee ballot, make sure to do so before Friday, May 28th, but preferably do that as soon as possible. You don't want to get your absentee request denied. And election day for the primaries this year is going to be on Tuesday, June 8th. You guys can feel free to reach out to me or my co-director Deontay if you have any questions about the registration process or the primaries in general. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Bianca. That is all from the cabinet for this week.
Thank you, Ryan. Let's do Spartan Access Services. So Maheen.
Awesome. We have one from Airbus today.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tony, and I'm the managing director of the Airbus. For those of you who don't know what an Airbus is a low-cost transportation that we provide for students in need of a ride to Dallas International Airport, and we've came up with two following dates. It's Wednesday, May 12th and Monday, May 17th. And this service is open to everyone, so not only international students. For those of you who are living outside of states can also use this service. The bus is going to load at 7 a.m. at the McCormick Road UTS stop at Elderman Library and depart at 7:30 a.m. in both of these dates. The registration link is coming soon, so look out for the link on studentco.ms social media accounts. The price is going to be $15 per person. And if you have any questions, I can copy down. Okay, I can put down the email address onto the chat. Thank you.
Awesome, thanks, Sydney. We also have an update from mutual aid.
Sorry, you got to unmute one more time.
Okay. I'm Rachel Heitman, she, her pronouns, Director of UVA Mutual Aid. We did our last round for the semester of aid distributions, and we distributed $5,685. And we received over 58 requests in the 24 hours that the form was open, depleting the funds that we had available. So with that being said, we are now fundraising for the summer and for the upcoming year. And I will share the information as far as how to donate. It can be really easy as, just doing it yourself or sharing a post from our Instagram on your Instagram. Any little share or comment builds our network and makes a big difference.
Fantastic. Thank you, everybody. We do not have any org or admin reports today, so we'll move into representative reports before our public comment session.
All right, leadership team. If you guys just wanted to unmute yourself, you could go whatever order you guys wanted to. So just raise your hand and we'll call on you.
Hey everybody, my name is Ella and I use she, her pronouns. I'll be serving as the chair pro tempore for the next year. So basically that means if Gabby wants to speak on a piece of legislation, I will be running the meeting, or if she can't make it, I'll be running the meeting and generally helping with things like that. Sorry, my allergies are killing me today, so I'm sounding kind of raspy, but I'm very excited to work with everybody. And if anybody has anything that they're particularly interested in working on, just please let me know. I think we have a really great team of people, executive branch and representative branch included.
Thank you, Ella. Tyler. Yeah, we can't hear you.
Oh, that's why. Is it good now?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey everyone, I'm Tyler. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm currently the chair of community concerns. So basically, just taking into consideration everything that is said during public comment and any concerns that are raised, and looking forward to working with the team of reps on that. So.
Thank you, Tyler. Tashara.
Can you guys hear me now? Okay. Hi, I'm Tashara. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the new chair of external affairs. I'm hoping to double major in African American studies and public policy in Baton. And just to echo what everyone has already said, I'm already in awe by all the hard work that everyone's putting in now. So I'm excited to work with many of you and also alongside CIOs. And of course, if you ever need anything from me, just feel free to Slack message me.
Thank you, Jashara. Adrian?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Adrian. I use he, him, his pronouns. I'm a current second year, entering the McIntyre School of Commerce in the upcoming year. And I am the Chief of Internal Affairs for the upcoming year. And I'm really looking forward to building a stronger rep body, especially after last year. We're hoping to make sure that our connections with each other, as well as the rest of student council, is even stronger in the upcoming year. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Ella, I know you had an update about the, okay, yeah, I'll let you take it away.
I raised this during community concerns 2 weeks ago, but we were talking about the quarantine dining situation. So I have been in contact with a couple of UVA administrators Nicole Aramo, Marsh Patty, and one other person who I can't remember her name at the moment. But Marsh Patty and I are having a meeting on 2:30 at 2:30 on Wednesday to talk about the quarantine dining situation. And I'm hoping that over the summer we can start collecting data on student experiences in quarantine, because I think UVA administration is under the impression that students knew about all of the resources that they could access. And from the framing that they used in the emails, it sounds like they're blaming students for times when they didn't receive food because they didn't reach out to their care team person, or I think that's what they're called. So we just really want to collect data. And if you personally, or if one of your friends was in quarantine, please let me know before Wednesday. We don't have time, obviously, to collect all of this data before Wednesday at 2:30, but we can collect anecdotes to kind of dispute the narrative that everything was fine and students didn't have problems and had access to all of the resources that they needed. Lillian is also working with me on this and has been great. So reach out to her as well. And yeah, that's all for me. But I'd really appreciate anecdotes if you have them, or if you want to jump on this with me, please let me know.
Thank you, Ella. I think that's it for us.
Fantastic. All right, now we will move into our public comment session before our special budget session. So we'll start with a comment from George Adura, and everyone during public comment will have 2 minutes. I'll time you and let you know when you have 30 seconds left in the chat. So George, if you want to raise your hand, I can unmute you. I see you. Okay, there we go.
You hear me? Okay, cool. Hi, y'all. My name is George. I use he, him pronouns, and I am currently a second year studying mechanical engineering and sociology here. I'm here to voice my support for the legislation today that would support the passage of the For the People Act in Congress. So I know that in order to take action against the environmentally destructive practices and habits of our largest polluters, we really have a responsibility to get big money out of politics, because this money has blocked any meaningful reform. This is why I support the For the People Act, which among many other amazing things would reveal dark money donors to super PACs by strengthening disclosure laws. It would mandate bipartisan support for congressional redistricting to address gerrymandering, and it would also mandate states to offer same-day voter registration and automatic federal voter registration. The issue I care about most is environmental protection, but actually every issue our generation cares about is connected to this broken democracy that we have. Big money in politics and the rigged incentive systems in Congress have blocked action on climate change, access to healthcare, student debt cancellation, and so many other popular reforms for our entire lives. But it really does not have to be this way. We have a chance right now to fix it by passing the For the People Act. So this is why I hope that you are all able to support this impactful legislation that would support the passage of this bill in Congress. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, George. Now I'll entertain Deontay Johnson.
Good evening. My name is Deontay Johnson. I come today to speak in favor of passing SR 21-36, a resolution supporting S1 for the People Act. I'm a former intern of Unpack, an organization which is focused on passing this legislation in Congress, and doing so by bolstering youth voices on college campuses. It's my belief that if our representatives vote yesterday on this bill, that will help to put forward UVA students in a way that affects tangible change. The base provisions of the For the People Act are designed to first expand voting rights through things like ending partisan gerrymandering and re-enfranchising former felons their right to vote. And secondly, curbing political corruption, which has contributed towards emboldening politicians to ignore the will of the people. I truly believe that by showcasing our unified support for the For the People Act, we will better submit ourselves towards cultivating the political sovereignty that's truly and justly reflected in our government, make it possible for each of our individual policy beliefs to form a collective which fosters progress and success for young voices in the political process. Thank you for your time.
Perfect. Thank you, Deontay. I'll now entertain Sekum Apia Ofori. You should be able to unmute now. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Hi, everybody. My name is Sekum, and I'm here to support the For the People Act. The legislation to support the For the People Act. So if you ever lived in first-year dorms, most of us lived in first-year dorms, right? That means that we all benefited from unpaid prison labor. That's right. As a public school, UVA is required by state law to purchase from prisons. Every single one of our beds, chairs, tables in first-year dorms were made by prison labor. And this is able to happen because by buying favor with the right politicians, private prison companies have been able to secure everything from lucrative government contracts to harsher laws to guarantee a steady stream of inmates to their facilities. This is why I'm organizing with Unpack to pass the For the People Act, which among many other amazing things reveals dark money donors like that from the prison industrial complex by strengthening disclosure laws. The issue that I care most about is the prison industrial complex, but actually every issue our generation cares about is connected to our broken democracy. Big money in politics and the rigged incentive system in Congress have blocked action on climate change, access to healthcare, student debt cancellation, and common sense gun reform for our entire lives. But it doesn't have to be this way. We have the chance to fix it right now by passing the For the People Act. So that is why I'm here to support it. So thank you.
Thank you, Sekum. All right. Now I'll entertain Hector Terrazas. And if you could just put your hand up, there you
go. Sorry, 1 second. Hi, I'm Hector, and I'm here in support of SB 21-35, a bill to approve the 2021 Student Council's summer budget as presented by the Director of Finance. And I just want to voice my opinion on this because as a low-income first-gen student, this really affected my family and many other students' families as well. As for my personal experience, I suffered 2 losses due to COVID. My family had COVID too, and coming to UVA and being basically forced to pay for Aetna insurance really took a toll on my family and our financial situation. I know many other students who also went through the same struggles, and I just feel like it's really unfair for students who don't have the ability to really have the ability to pay this, to be forced to do this in case if they want to be at UVA. Many of us don't have the ability to stay at home and really have a good learning environment. So this really puts a lot of students at a disadvantage, and not only the students, but their larger family. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you. Hector, I'll now entertain Samuel Falls.
Hello, my name is Samuel Falls. I go by he, him pronouns. I'm a first year studying aerospace engineering in the School of Engineering and Applied Science. And I'm here also in support of SR 2126, which is in support of the For the People Act. So the issue that I find most persuasive is just democracy as a whole, because I think it's so broadly applicable regardless of one's political views generally within the United States. People are in support of democracy, or the idea that like the people should be the ones controlling the government and not the other way around. And so that's why the For the People Act is so important to me, because it works to better enforce that connection where the people are the ones controlling the government. I think there has been a frightening divergence in recent years between positions or policies of the government and those actually supported by the people. And I think the main cause of that is our current legal system, which allows outsized donations to political candidates that make your vote proportional to your personal wealth rather than just you as a person. And so that's why I'm here to support the For the People Act. Thank you.
Thank you, Samuel. Now I'll entertain Paula Caruvas.
Oh, okay. Hello. Give me 1 second while I look up. Okay, I'm here in support of Bill SB 2135, and mostly everything that I'm going to talk about is mostly from experience. So I'm a first generation student, and I'm also out of state. So when I first came to grounds, I was not really sure about like the whole student healthcare situation. I didn't know what my financial aid was really. So when I came here, I was under the impression that I pretty much had everything set. And that's because our first year we were given like sort of like a grant, and it was a one-time grant. So they paid for student healthcare. And then once I became a second year, I pretty much didn't have that grant, and they took away other financial aid. So as a second year, I had to not only pay for books and flights being out of state, but I also had to pay for what was a student health that would be covered by UVA, because I have healthcare, but that is only covered in which is on my home state, which is Texas. So that means that every year from then on, I had to take out a loan, which was $3,000 a year, making it $9,000 by now. That in other schools you don't have to do because it's not a requirement. So I'm just here in support of that and hoping for like there to be some change in the student health facilities here on grounds.
Thank you. All right, now I'll entertain Ingrid Ortiz Ramos, and if they are not here, I do have a written comment. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me well? Or okay, great. I hope everyone's doing fine today. But I'm here in support for also Bill SB 21-35, a bill to approve the 2021 Student Council summer budget. And I'm here to kind of voice also not only my support for this plan, but also to kind of talk about the realities of a lot of out-of-state low income students, and especially those that have high medical costs. Speaking on my own personal experiences as someone that has like serious chronic cardiovascular disease, and also recipient of Medicaid in my hometown, I saw that the kind of change to the Aetna student plan was a sort of large and unprecedented cost that really had a large and economic and financial burden on my family, in that the movement from your average medical or Medicaid costs that the state was able to supplement very well compared to the Aetna student plan. I had to pay almost $10,000 out of pocket in a single year for my own medical needs. And this is something that I wouldn't have to really, at least compared to my own Medicaid plan back home, I would have never had to seen. And also like kind of translating that further into the sort of socioeconomic situations of out of state, low income students. It kind of says a lot about how UVA views the realities of poverty in these marginalized communities, and that oftentimes it feels that it's almost as if UVA is kind of picking at these low income out-of-state students, because oftentimes these are the students who can't afford private healthcare coverage or don't have the luxury to accessing their own parents' coverage themselves, in that many of these communities are coming from immigrant parents who themselves can't have access to private Medicaid or Medicare coverage or medical coverage, sorry. So kind of translating the fact that it's a luxury not only to afford the Aetna student plan, but also a luxury depending on your own individualistic medical needs, being able to really feel that this plan is fulfilling for the student themselves. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I'll now entertain Frank Valdez.
Hi, thank you so much. Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate everything everyone's been saying. This is an issue that I'm a fourth year right now. We've been talking about this since my first year, and it's always an issue that's kind of thrown under the rug. Like Paola said, there used to be like private funding for it, but there's never been a sustainable resource for it. It's something that just kind of gets thrown up the rug and doesn't get included with other financial aid. And because it doesn't affect a lot of people at UVA, it often goes untalked about and no one's advocating for it. But it's really important. And although people might not know, there are people at UVA that do go uninsured. And UVA is more worried about finding those people that go uninsured and making them pay for the UVA insurance rather than thinking about, okay, let's go to the root of the problem. How do we make sure that all our students are insured? Like that's, especially during a pandemic, this is an issue that is important regardless if there's a pandemic or not. And with like a lot of these issues that have been systemic, they go way beyond the pandemic and they'll continue way after the pandemic. But even right now, it's like with the time you think would be even more important. That's something we were hoping that UVA would waive that for all students, health insurance, because right now making students come on grounds during this time or like having in-person classes or regardless to like your students at this university, you think that would be included in your financial aid, like for that to be waived, and that wasn't a reality. So yeah, I just want to reiterate, this is something that's way important, like super important. It's way long overdue. And if we are really looking at comprehensive mental health for our students, we have to start looking that mental health for our students is way more than CAPS counseling. Like, no, that's not like, let's look at the root of the problem. That includes health insurance, making sure that students, like a lot of the roots of mental health are because people's like physical health is wrong. Yes, so we have to like start looking at that as a need of students. That is not an extra, like that is a basic necessity to ensure the wellness of our students on grounds. And so, yeah, I'm happy this is being talked about. This is the like bare minimum because we want a sustainable resource for this. Like, I'm happy this is happening and being talked about, but hopefully this thing gets included and it'll become something that the university covers and allocates on their part. And so, yes, thank you so much.
Thank you. I'll now entertain Alexa Williams.
Hello, my name is Alexa Williams. I use they, them, theirs, and she, her, hers pronouns. I'm the outreach chair for the Native American Student Union, as well as a member of the Native and Indigenous Studies Working Group here at UVA. And I wanted to speak on the digital-only contextualizations of statues here on grounds. Not providing physical space for these statues to be contextualized in addition to being inaccessible is the continued erasure of UVA's racist and white supremacist past and the legacy that it has had for Native people. Native and Indigenous faculty members and community members are extremely restricted in the way that they are able to engage with the university because they are employees of the university and therefore are not able to communicate effectively with the university without fear of retribution. And UVA continuously fails to consult the Monacan Nation and other Virginia tribes. So I'm here to advocate for the student body to organize and write letters to the Board of Visitors and the administration to ask for sufficient physical contextualizations and the continued support of Native peoples in the University of Virginia and in Virginia as a whole, as well as appropriate consultation on behalf of the university with the Monacan Nation on the removal of the George Rogers Clark statues and the contextualization of other statues and monuments here on grounds. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexa. And that was our last public comment. Thank you, everybody. I'm really glad to see there's so much support for the resolution on the For the People Act, as well as on our summer budget, which is truly unprecedented in its scope and nature. So I'll now entertain Jaden Evans and Cece to discuss our summer budget. If you were here for public comment, this might be a bit long. Feel free to stay, but we're going to go through the budget essentially line item by line item, so it might take a minute.
Thank you, Abel. I'm going to share my screen now.
I'm going to go ahead and ask that we save any questions for the end. If they're really pressing, they come up, feel free to raise your hand or message Abel, CC, or myself. But otherwise, I'm planning to go through the entire budget, and then we can go through any questions that you guys may have at the end. And if they come up later, please feel free to Slack or email me. When I'm done, I'll go ahead and drop my email address in the chat. But I'll begin by thanking you all for having me today. The exec team, Abel, CC, Ryan, they've been working really hard on this budget, and we're really excited to show you guys. It's a fairly major budget that we're seeking to pass. So I'll try to make it as quick as possible, but it will take a little bit because there are some groundbreaking new initiatives that we're including. I'm going to begin with an overview, and I'll go ahead and compare it to last year's budget. But I'd like to ask you to keep in mind that last year's budget was passed during some significant COVID restrictions. So there will be some variances that exist nonetheless, and I'll go ahead and try to address those. This budget, if passed, it would be in effect from the time that it's passed all the way through early October, when we would entertain and vote on a new budget for the fall. So this will be active for a portion of the fall semester, which is why we've included some of the initiatives on here. And I'm also going to begin by clarifying, again, just for everyone, the difference between student activities fee funding and non-SAF funding. Student activities fee, SAF, it comes from the student activities fee that is paid by every student that attends the university. And if it's approved here, it does have to be allocated by the Student Activities Committee with UVA administration. And so those funds are restricted to certain guidelines that are outlined on the Student Council website. They've been put forth by the Board of Visitors, the Student Activities Committee, as well as Student Council. Whereas non-student activities fee funding, this comes from the Student Council's internal budget. And this is typically funded through the Student Activities Fair. It may change a little bit this year, but at the moment, so the Student Council has about $9,500 of cash on hand internally, and then there's about another $11,600 in an endowment account that is generally inaccessible, except for some small annual withdrawals on the gains made and any emergency instances. So this year, let's scroll down a little bit. So this year, in total, this budget proposes an allocation of $129,740 of student activities fee funding, $20,750 of non-student activities funding, for a grand total of $150,490. Last year, the allocation amounts were respectively $7,950 of student activities fee, $8,290 of non-student activities fee, for a total of $16,240. Of last summer's budget, that was only about $3,200 was spent. So it was a utilization rate of just under 20%. We've tried to craft our budget this year to try to achieve a higher rate of utilization. So as you can see, we have a pretty significant increase this year, but a large portion of that is concentrated within this newly created Support and Access Services branch. And this branch was, as you all know, it was created through an amendment which was overwhelmingly passed by the students who did vote on it, well over 80%. So there's a very clear and heavy mandate, as we've also seen through the public comment, for these inclusions. And I'll also preface it by saying that a lot of these initiatives which we seek to include here have either been funding or will be funded through a COVID surplus of the SAF funding. If we go ahead and move on to the comparison here, I'm going to go ahead and sort of skip this for now, so that way we can go through the line item initiatives first, and then we can come back to this at the end if there are questions. We'll begin with the Academic Affairs Agency. There are two initiatives this year. This is actually one of our most significant student activities fee allocations, and it regularly is. The primary initiative here is the Cavalier Education Program. It's a credit or no credit student initiated courses that are run, they're taught alongside faculty. It was funded last year, but the amount has increased by about $575. And this is because the course will be taught in person versus online from last year. So it may require some physical materials, which we budgeted for, as well as some supplies or promotional materials. And then there's also some funding here for the Fall Academic Resource Fair. Again, it's additional just publicity and funding. This is a very regular expense. And then next we have the Arts Committee, which again is actually another one of our significant SAF allocations. It regularly is. We have allocated $2,000 to booking event spaces for Arts Week that cannot be held on grounds. We will do our best to hold as much as we can on grounds. But this is just a provision to make sure that they have the resources that they need to put on the event that is quite critical to the cultural and arts of UVA. And then there's also the Arts Fund. Now I'll note that the Arts Fund is not typically included in the summer budget. So that explains this portion of the increase from last summer. But we wanted to make sure that the artists who are working on fall projects had access to funds as early as possible in the semester. Part of our initiative this year is to try to boost the accessibility of funds, and so by passing this in the summer budget, we plan to make these resources available as early as possible, and we can roll over any remaining funds that are not used. The next is Diversity and Engagement Agency. And so the initiative that we have here this year is based on one that was started last year during COVID-19, where they began providing diversity grants to multicultural CIOs to promote community engagement. It was quite successful last summer, and we hope to include it again. Last summer, the utilization rate was about 40%, but I will say that there are still some projects that are pending funding at the moment. And so although it was $2,000 last summer, we are increasing it to $2,500 because we expect a higher utilization rate during non-COVID times. No, I should say not non-COVID, but less restrictions, as well as rolling over some funds for projects that are still either going on or seeking funding. Up next, we have the Financial Accessibility Agency, and this will be for some workshops for the Student Council. It will be, SNAP and Medicaid workshops that will be resources available to low-income undergrad and graduate students for financial resources that they may qualify for. And so we will be supplementing it with food to ensure that these workshops are as well attended and accessible as possible, and prove that they are effective when they're done. Up next, we have the Student Activity or International Student Affairs Agency. This agency, we actually have various initiatives to fund. I'll note that the summer and the beginning of fall is really a critical time for this agency to reach out and connect with international students as they return to or begin their time at UVA or remain over the summer. I will also note that these initiatives would ideally be better funded than we are actually capable of funding right now. So what you see is kind of a slimmed down version of the budget that we were initially going for. And it includes funding for an international student guidebook, career services, a mentoring program, international student activities for students that remain in Charlottesville over the summer and the beginning of the fall, and then general lobbying and marketing costs, which includes essential services such as like VPN usage that have all proven really critical to international students here at UVA. All of this funding, or most of this funding will go through the student activities fee because we believe that it fits well within the guidelines that are laid out as it relates to international students. But there's also a small provision of non-SAF funding, which is just general food for overall bonding and connection to ensure that they have the resources that they really need to be effective as an agency. Up next, we have the Legislative, the Legislative Affairs Agency. These are initiatives that have historically been pretty central to the character of Student Council and something that are generally done each year. They include this hourly worker campaign, voter registration, and get out the vote initiatives. As well. And overall, these initiatives represent an increase of about $375 over last summer's. The increase comes from a bit more funding with voter registration, as well as bus advertisements that we will be using for Get Out the Vote, since we expect more students to be on grounds with COVID being less of a factor. Then up next, we have student life. Student life has just one short, relatively minor initiative. It's gift card incentives to get, excuse me, survey data on safe rides. This is something that they've been working on doing for a little bit, but has now been rolled over to the summer. And this will come from non-SAF funding. Up next is safety and wellness. This is something that was not funded last summer because students were not on grounds last summer. But this is a regular service that Student Council does strive to provide. It's also regularly included in the annual budget. But again, we wanted to include it in the summer budget to ensure that these resources were accessible to students as early as possible. But again, this is a very regular cost that Student Council does take on. And then finally, for agencies, we have sustainability. They have a number of initiatives, ones that we have been forced to unfortunately slim down a little bit, similar to the International Student Affairs Agency. So this represents, frankly, kind of just above the minimum that are needed to achieve their goals. So we really hope that this shouldn't be too much trouble. But it includes costs of compostable materials, increased educational materials, a small provision for community bonding, and website costs as well. All right, now we will move on to administration. Up first, we have the Alumni Relations Committee. This is, excuse me, this is just a membership fee with the Alumni Association, something that we started, I believe, just last year. But by paying $100 annually with the Alumni Association, it gives us access to their very robust resources to help us do fundraising campaigns and work with all of the services that the Alumni Association offers. So it's a pretty critical expenditure. And then data science, this is a new committee this summer. They are seeking $100 as well for survey incentives to begin building the work of the data science committee. Then we have the historical committee. We're seeking $50 for an annual subscription to a transcription service. This is just going to help this committee conduct their services as well as possible, just by taking very accurate minutes, meeting notes, that sort of thing. And this is an annual subscription, so I'll note that if we fund it this summer, it will go through all the way till next summer. And then we have marketing. Similarly, this is an annual subscription, so it'll be $240 that will go towards Adobe Creative Cloud to be used by the Student Council for marketing publicity purposes. So this would fund for the entire 2021-22 school year. And then up next is membership. This is something that we are pretty excited about, but we are going to be hosting a number of trainings for the Student Council general body. And so this is to pay those trainings to compensate these groups for their services. So it's $100 for Undoc Ally and Undoc UVA training, $100 for disorientation, $100 for anti-co-opting, and $100 for lobbying. Then anti-racist has also been included here, but that's just because that training will come at no cost to the Student Council. And up next, we're going to move into the support and access services branch. This is the most significant portion of our budget. All of this is brand new. This is what we heard a lot of the public comment on, and a part that we are extremely excited to be discussing here today. The first is the Accommodations Access Fund. We are pursuing a reallocation of $5,800 from the SAF surplus of last year. If the Student Activities Committee is on board with it, then the Parents Fund has agreed to match that $5,800 with an equal grant of their own, bringing the funding to this service to $11,600. These grants will be used to offer partial and full scholarships for low-income students, disability certifications to access SDAC services, which are a critical component of some students having a productive experience here at UVA. Then next is the Aetna Insurance Support Fund. And this is what we heard a lot of public comment on. And this is our most significant expenditure that we will be planning for the summer leading into the fall. The idea is that these Aetna insurance grants will offer a critical proof of need the proof of concept to the university administration to first identify the problem, support students as best we can, but also to gather the data and show that it is needed, so that way a more long-term sustainable plan can be needed. We are seeking an $80,000 reallocation from the Student Activities Committee from the surplus of the SAF from last year. And this $80,000 will fund either 14 full scholarships for a year of Aetna insurance, or it will fund 80 partial $1,000 scholarships for students on out-of-state Medicaid, as we heard. We'll be working with Student Financial Services and the Office of Health Promotion to determine the appropriate volume and size of these grants. But this is the number that we have decided we are going to be pursuing this summer in Student Activities Committee. Up next, we have Airbus. This was a service that was started by previous Student Council President Ellen Yates. This will be for both the summer service as well as the Thanksgiving service. Technically, the Thanksgiving service, yes, does happen in November, but we want to secure the funding as early as possible so that way we can ensure that the shuttles and the buses are secured. So it will cost $2,500 for each service, and it will charge students $15 per ticket. And for the summer service, I just want to note that appropriate social distancing and safety measures will be taken. So we're excited to be offering that. Next, we have the Next Steps Fund. This will fund outpatient therapy grants for students after CAPS for their first 2 sessions with the Charlottesville community therapist. And so we are seeking $10,000 of funding for this. This is a fund that we have had going, and now we seek to replenish it. And then up next, we have the Textbook Access Office, our last of the new services that will require funding from the Support and Access Services branch. And so we have already secured a $10,000 grant from the Jefferson Trust. And so this is just included as a formality. But we will be using this to pay for, actually, I will note, we'll be using the $10,000 to pay for books for this loaner library. And we are seeking $500 in SAF funding to fund a bookshelf for this loaner library. There are other services that we'll be offering in the Support and Access Services branch that are just not included in this presentation because they have either their own funding sources or they are just self-sufficient enough. I just want to note that as well. And then up next, we have CIO Consultants. This is for the Fall Activities Fair. We're going to be slightly restructuring the funding structure of the Activities Fair. This is typically the largest revenue stream of non-SAF funding for Student Council. But what we're seeking to do is shift the Student Council's revenue to an endowment model over the next year through a pretty heavy capital campaign. And so therefore, redirecting this revenue stream is sort of a part of that plan. By funding the Act 2 Activities Fair with SAF funding, we're going to seek to make this fair more accessible to more student organizations. And so this is how much it will cost that is within the student activities fee guidelines. And then to close it all out here, we have the representative body. This discretionary amount is the same that was allocated last summer in terms of student activities fee funding, $600. And then to close on exec operations, there is another discretionary budget here. It's slightly more than last summer, but this will just fund some new initiatives that we have planned, as well as anticipating slightly higher use during less COVID restrictions. So I'll close by sort of just explaining that, again, in total, we're seeking $129,740 in student activities funding. We believe that this is very doable because we are seeking to pull from the COVID-19 surplus that we have experienced from last year. In terms of non-SAF funding, we believe that this is well within the financial security of Student Council. Keep in mind that this is $20,750 of non-SAF funding. $15,800 of that has already been secured from other sources. And so we're actually only seeking to use about $4,950 of Student Council's budget. And part of that $4,950 is $1,500 of discretionary funding that may or may not be spent. So on the whole, it actually represents a fairly low level of expenditure from student council's internal budget, while providing a great deal of really essential services to thousands of students across the university. And I hope that you guys can support this budget. And with that, we'll open up to questions, and I'll pass it off to Abel to add any comments.
Thank you, Jaden. I just wanted to note 2 or 3 things. So the first is that, as Jaden mentioned, there are a few services not included in the budget that will be operating under the Support and Access Services branch. I just want to give them a quick shout out. That includes UVA Mutual Aid, Student Legal Services, and the Community Food Pantry. Also not included in the budget in the cabinet agencies, but across the board are initiatives that happen for free. I think a really good example within the agencies is just anything that has to do with lobbying. So this definitely doesn't represent our policy agenda, only the policy agenda that actually costs money. And then as a final note, directors of any committee or agency cannot speak during legislative session. So now is the time for you all to ask Jaden or the directors questions because Jaden can't speak during legislative session. And this is also a time where we can make edits to the budget as presented. I have one. So under the Aetna Insurance Support Fund, I mistakenly thought that the loans that students have to take out annually were $5,800. They're closer to $2,900. So we would actually be able to offer roughly 27 full scholarships or 80 partial scholarships of $1,000. And that's it for me. So yeah, now is the time for everyone to ask questions to Jaden, the directors, etc.
Thank you so much, Jaden, first of all, for walking everybody through that. That was a mouthful and very impressive, so thank you. I'm not sure if this is an appropriate question for right now, but I had a question about the Arts Fund. So I just wanted to hear from the people that are running this initiative, which I think is really great. How much are individual artists being compensated? How are they being recruited? And then who's selecting which artists we're giving money to? Yeah, that's my question.
I can begin to answer that by saying the last student that was compensated through the Arts Fund was compensated for a capstone project that was presented at Ruffin Hall, and they were compensated for about $411. Beyond that, I can just pass it off to Abby if she has any other additions to that, but that's what I can offer right now.
Abby, if you raise your hand, we can unmute you.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, so my question was, Jaden partially answered it, but how much per artist? How are they being recruited? And then who's picking the artists that will receive funding?
Oh yeah, sorry. We have a whole process for that, but essentially an application goes out that we heavily publicize on social media, Facebook, GroupMe's, emails. It's sent to all CIOs. We spread it around to different groups at UVA who may be interested or are working on arts-related problems or projects or initiatives. And then we have a really long, probably like 5 or 6 hour meeting where we go through every application in depth. We figure out how many projects we can fund, what is capable of being funded, because there's restrictions on what forms of art projects and supplies are able to be funded in this budget. And then we try to fund as much as we can. Sometimes we can't give people the full amount, but we always We'll send everybody an email in regards to whether or not they get funding and what proportion of the funds they will get. And then we have a conversation with them on if we can't fund everything, do they still want to move forward with a portion of the funds? And so that's kind of a little bit about the process, but it is a tedious process that'll be occurring in the fall.
Thanks, Abby. I'll also just add that in the fall of last year, the Arts Fund focused on anti-racist art or art that lent itself to anti-racist practices or education. We'll hopefully continue that tradition for the fall and possibly include other themes throughout the year, which in turn might impact the art that is chosen.
Hi. I just have a quick question on the Aetna insurance part of it. Have you guys talked to student financial aid in advance of this allocation? Because I know one of the main issues with the insurance costs for low-income students is that it's not a part of cost of attendance. So when they do get outside scholarships towards the insurance, it goes against their basically like UVA financial aid, since their cost of attendant needs seem to go down with the introduction of scholarships. So I'm just a little bit curious if you've thought through the logistics of introducing those scholarships, given the structure.
I can pass that off to Abel.
The short answer is yes. We have worked with SFS over the last year to get more information on the root of the problem and that there's no, grant funding for this now, as well as essentially agreeing to help them create a funding source in the short term. So we were really asked by SFS to help provide this funding, and Cece can speak more to the specifics on the way it might count against aid, because she led this effort as the chair of the Financial Accessibility now agency.
Yes. So yeah, to just kind of reiterate what Abel said, the short answer is yes. Essentially, I've been meeting consistently with people in SFS for the past year, and we've been discussing this, and it was kind of a request on there and that student council come up with a funding pool, because right now the issue is that there is no funding pool to give aid. So the only thing that they can offer through the financial aid package is scholarships. So they're very on board with this, which is awesome. And in terms of all of the resources we're providing through this new branch, the goal is to not have them affect financial aid, loan scholarships. Sorry, I misspoke. To offer loans to students to take out UVA's insurance. And the essential goal is to not have any of these things impact students' financial aid. So hopefully, instead of being able to offer loans to cover this mandatory insurance, we'll just instead be able to offer more financial aid. So if anything, it'll just increase the amount that people are offered within their package, and it won't impact that in a negative way.
And I'll add that there is across the board precedent for that additive nature of the support and access services. So the Next Steps Fund, as well as Accommodations Access Fund and Mutual Aid, have over the last few years not counted against student financial aid. And so we hope to continue that with the Aetna insurance grants as well.
I have another couple of questions. So under membership for our trainings over the summer, have the people that are going to be doing this training agreed already to this compensation? Will they be compensated for their prep time? Is it $100 for the organization that is giving us this training, or is it per person? My only concern there is if it's 3 people leading a training for all of us, they have prep time. And that works out to $33 per person, which is a ridiculous amount of money, and seems a little condescending. But maybe you all have worked this out already. So I'd just like to know how that's working. Oh, and, sorry, one more question. Why is the anti-racist training at no cost, but the other ones are at a cost?
Great questions. Okay, so I'll start with the last one because that's the simplest. The Multicultural Student Services office within UVA offers a fairly robust anti-racism training. So that's why it's free of charge. It's just a university office, and then if necessary, we can supplement that with additional trainings around anti-racism and anti-racist practices. And then in terms of the other stipends for trainings, I asked Undoc UVA how much they generally charge for Undoc Ally trainings. The answer was that it's on a sliding scale based on how much money each group has. So the University Guide Service paid $50 to the organization for their training. So 100 is very generous in that context. And then based on the very strong directors we have in membership, as well as some experience that I think the rest of the team has, we will probably be able to do a lot of the anti-co-opting and lobbying materials production and prep on our own, but in case we have to work with other groups to create case studies or have any or take any of their materials, that's what that $100 is for. So the time spent externally on those trainings will probably be low, which is why $100 works there. And then disorientation is generally an event that groups do for free, right? And it's led by individuals from a number of different representative groups. Student Council has never asked members to attend that as a training. We do hope to do that, or we hope to have an additional disorientation presentation for our general body specifically. But in either case, these groups haven't been paid for this work before, and so this will be the first time that we're doing that, which is an improvement. If you would like to make a suggestion, right, around raising any of these amounts as a representative, you are definitely more than welcome to. Since it's not just like a factual correction, I would recommend doing that with an amendment during the legislative session, if you hope to do that. Does that answer your question? Okay.
All right, well, with that, I'll go ahead and drop my email in the chat. I know it's final season, so thank you guys for your time.
Fantastic. So let's see. Thank you, Jaden, for your email. All right. As I just mentioned, reps, you won't be able to speak to directors. You can still speak to me, Cece, Ryan Chizikowski, and each other on the budget during legislative session. But at this point, when we enter legislative session, you will be able to make budget amendments. So if there's anything you would like to change in terms of like amounts or allocations towards different initiatives or line items, this is your chance to do so. And so without further ado, I'll pass it off to Gabby.
Thank you, Abel. We will now enter legislative session. I will begin by calling the roll. Okay. Just raise your hand, please. Violet Cadet. Okay. Thank you. Nina Santana. Thank you. Lillian Rojas. Thank you. Laura Arif. Thank you. Tyler Bush. Thank you. Noah Strike. Thank you. Tashara Robertson. Thank you. Christian Ephraim. Thank you. Ella Tinch. Thank you. Adrian Mummerl. Thank you. Jay Moody. Thank you. Rithika Kormath-Ond. Thank you. Sarah Kirk. Thank you. Joshua Franklin. Thank you. Rand Perry. Thank you. Alex Sheng. Jason Evans. Thank you. Isa Fortuno. Thank you. Elizabeth Cruz. Thank you. And Raphael Movsezian. Thank you so much. Okay, the roll has been called. I'll now entertain the minutes from the previous session. Are there any comments, questions, or concerns about the previous week's minutes? Ella. Oh. Is it working? Can somebody, oh.
A small typo on the first page. It's under Abel's talking and it's bullet B bullet A, but there is a part where it says undocumented students. I think it's like the second sentence, and I think it's supposed to be undocumented. That's it.
Okay. So I would now look favorably upon a motion to vote on an amendment. Jason?
Motion to pass with a friendly amendment.
Adrian?
Second.
Are there any objections to the amendment? If you have one, please raise your hand. Seeing none, the motion carries and the amendment passes. Are there any comments, questions, or concerns about the now amended minutes? I would look favorably upon a motion to vote on the minutes. Ella.
Motion to vote.
Sarah.
Seconded.
Are there any objections? If you have an objection, please raise your hand. Seeing none, the minutes pass. Okay. I will now entertain SB 21-35, a bill to approve the 2021 Student Council Summer Budget as presented by the Director of Finance, and I'll entertain Able to speak on this legislation.
Thank you, Gabby. We've spoken about the budget at length. I am very, very proud of what we've put forward. It is unprecedented, and I think that this budget will be an essential tool in our effort to make student council more equitable and tangibly impactful for the student body. I would quickly like to make one friendly amendment. As a co-sponsor of this bill. So I move to remove the $500 allotment for composting services and educational materials under the Sustainability Agency's tab because that is now covered by the Office of Sustainability itself within the university. And I'd love a second.
Second.
Gabby, you're muted.
Oh, so sorry. That's so sorry about that. Are there any objections to the amendment? If you have an objection, please raise your hand. Okay, seeing none, the amendment passes. Are there any comments, questions, or concerns about this bill? Ella.
I would like to introduce an amendment to the bill. Can I do that now? Okay. I'd like to introduce an amendment to the bill to raise the allocation for the UNDOC UVA and UNDOC UALI training, and also for the disorientation from 100 each to 200 each. I think that these students put in a lot of work at the university, and the students running these trainings are people that we're going to have to consult a lot throughout the year and take a lot of time from. So it's not just the training, but it's also prep work and also experience that we're paying for. And I think that we should put our money where our values are. And I honestly would be fine with raising it even higher for each. We just saved $500 because of Abel's friendly amendment. So maybe we could even raise it to $350 each. But I would like to hear from other representatives as well.
Jason?
On that point, Ella, my question is, how much time is invested in their preparation? And if we can factor in a set minimum amount of time, then we can offer just compensation. So in the spirit, I agree with Ella. I just want to know what is expected of these particular presenters as far as preparation, because they're taking time outside of their obligations as students to prepare for these presentations and trainings that are basically to the level of a professional. So with that said, that's my question. What is the minimum time of preparation before I would make an agreement with Ella?
Ella?
I think that's a good question. I would be hesitant to set a minimum time for preparation. In my view, we're not just paying for like the actual prep work done for the event, but these students have been doing work in organizing around grounds that prepares them and qualifies to speak on these issues. So I think we're not just paying for their time, but also their experience and also past experience and future experience as well, because these are people that we're going to, again, be asking to help us or put an input on certain issues. I think, I don't know how much time is going into the prep work, but I'm assuming each event would be about an hour, and I'm assuming that it's not being led by one person. So either this money is going to be going to be split in between individuals or go to a group. So in my mind, we're paying for a lot of prep work. We can't afford to compensate them for all the prep work that is their experience in organizing in these groups that they're a part of that qualifies them to speak.
Cece?
Hi, yeah, I just wanted to take that quickly too. So I don't know if you like wanted a more specific like breakdown by hour, but I think it depends on the training. And I definitely just want to say that I second Ella's suggestion. I'm glad that you requested it. I think that like the things that they're offering are both very valuable and certainly like outside of like what we are asking other students to do. So I think it depends on the training. Like for example, Undocu Ally already has a training that they have like developed and tested, but other organizations that we're asking to consult with us don't necessarily already have those. So they'll probably be putting in more hours to both like contribute resources to us and also to actually develop trainings and put them together. The way that we were thinking about this is we'll pay organizations like Undocu Ally certain amounts like $100, and then for other groups where we're asking like specific people to consult and put together trainings, we'll pay by person, so we can also like break it down that way. I hope that answered your question. If not, feel free to ask again or also message me as well.
Jay?
Hi, so I am actually an Undocu Ally Coordinator for Undocu UVA. That is my exec position for the organization. So I can kind of speak more onto what we do when we prepare for these. So first thing that we do, we have to update the slides. We do have a set slide that we use for almost every single one, but then we have to update the research that's done on it, which does take a lot of outside time. So it not just Undocu Ally coordinators, there is 5 of us. And so that kind of speaks into how much of work that needs to be done to prepare for the like the slideshow. And sometimes we even have to redo the slideshow because people want to focus on certain Undocu Ally intersectional issues. So we put even more time and work and effort to put extra research so that we can have a more elaborate slide. The training in and of itself lasts up to 2 hours. With extra discussion and case studies, and we send a post-training document to everyone who was at the training. And then on top of the 5 Undocu Ally coordinators, we also use our research chairs. So there's 2 extra people who do very specific research and use very specific like frameworks and stuff like that to get the research. So yeah, that just kind of speaks more into that. So I am in support of Ella's amendment to increase the amount of money that we give to these organizations because this is the training itself takes a lot of extra time plus the amount of like organizing that we do outside. So yeah, I agree with Ella's amendment, and I hope that a lot of other people also agree.
Jason?
I just want to clarify, I do agree with Ella's amendment. What I was asking for specifically was concrete, like an invoice, like to justify labor, experience, and time so that we can have like a justification for the amendment to increase. So all that, thank you, Jay, for answering that question. I do agree with the amendment that Ella has presented. Thank you.
Ella?
Thank you, everybody, for chipping in. Also, thank you, Jay. That was very helpful. Just to clarify, so after hearing that, my suggestion now, so my amendment is to increase the amount allocated to $350 for Undocu Ally training and $350 for disorientation. Having known some of the people that do run disorientation, it's very labor intensive and it's very time consuming and it's also very valuable. And I think this is a resource that deserves to be compensated. If anybody has any thoughts, please feel free to go ahead. And I also agree with Jason. I don't know if we have ability to invoice it now, but afterwards, if we could get some sort of invoice or something just so we have it for our records. So if anybody asks after the fact, why was this much allocated or whatever, we can say, well, look, they put in 7 hours.
Jason?
I will defer to Abel, who had his hand up before I make my statement.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that I think that's a great suggestion, Ella and Jason, to have the trainers and coordinators create some sort of post-training invoice broken down by hour and individual. This is the first year that we're compensating any external group to do trainings, so we can use that data in the future to inform any trainings we might pay for, say in the spring or summer of 2022. And I am also fully supportive of this amendment.
All right, Jason.
Yes, I do second Ella's amendment.
Thank you. Are there any other comments, questions, or concerns? Are there any objections to Ella's amendment? Okay. Seeing none, I would look favorably upon a motion to, one moment. Okay, so seeing none, I would look favorably upon a motion to table the bill. Tyler,
Motion to table.
thank you. Sarah,
Seconded.
are there any objections to tabling the bill? If there are objections, please raise your hand. Okay, seeing none, the bill is tabled. I will now entertain SR 21-36, a resolution in support of House Resolution 1, the For the People Act, and I will entertain Tyler to speak on this legislation.
Yep, thank you, Gabby. So good evening, everyone. First, how many of your lives have been impacted by the pandemic? Clearly, all of us, as we are meeting with one another over computers. Navigating this pandemic and our subsequent transition to online learning has not been easy on any of us. For some, it has taken a toll, especially on financial security, and I've personally experienced this. At the onset of the pandemic, I lost my job and have since had to deal with work that has paid significantly less and has thus put a financial strain on myself. In my home state of Delaware, a candidate for Senate, Jessica Scarane, understood my struggles and the need for a living wage. Because she was not backed by large corporations and did not have years of campaign funds amassed compared to her opponent, her campaign was unsuccessful. The result of this hit close to home recently when it was revealed that Senator Coons was among those who voted against a $15 minimum wage. Candidates like him do not represent the people, but are clearly aiming to uphold the status quo. This is just one of the reasons why I've organized with Unpack to pass the For the People Act. This act will create public financing for congressional elections, make it easier to vote in federal elections, end congressional gerrymandering, and strengthen government ethics, which are all things that we can generally agree are good and necessary for a sound democracy that functions truly for the people. I ask that you join me in supporting this resolution in support of the For the People Act to help accomplish these goals and engage young voters of all political viewpoints in the democratic process. As representatives, we have an obligation to improve opportunities for our peers and fellow Virginians, no matter what background or prior life experiences they have had. And so I hope you will take one small step towards what we hope to be a great impact. With this display of solidarity, we show that young people are not just present, but are engaged in the democratic process and want to be engaged in solutions that will engage all in our political process and show what issues are at the forefront of our generation. With that, I thank you for my time. And also I will place the link for the Unpack website with more information as well. And I hope CC can post it to everyone.
thank you, Tyler. Are there any comments, questions, or concerns about this resolution? Abel?
Thank you, Tyler and Gabby. I just wanted to mention that I am working with the Unpack organization to engage other Virginia campuses to also support the For the People Act in the form of either a resolution from their student government or a statement of support from their executive boards. JMU is on board, and I'm also in touch with a number of Virginia HBCUs and other public universities.
Thank you. Are there any other comments, questions, or concerns about this resolution? Okay. Seeing none, I would look favorably upon a motion to vote. Jason?
Motion to vote.
Nishara?
Second.
We will now vote on this resolution. All of those in favor, please raise your hands. Thank you. Please put your hands down. All of those opposed, please raise your hands. Thank you. And all of those abstaining, please raise your hands. Thank you. You can put your hand down. Thank you so much. SR 21-36 passes with 16 yeas, 0 oppositions, and 1 abstention. And we will now exit legislative session.
Okay, fantastic. I love that conversation. I hope we can continue to have, more thoughtful discussions on our legislation throughout the year. Are there any community concerns that you all would like to discuss? My community concern is that there's no break between the end of classes and finals. I think everyone probably feels that way. We're a bit late in terms of changing that, but I'm not going to make everyone stay because I understand that we've all got a lot to do. So reps, as Gabby mentioned, we'll see you all for the special session tomorrow. It'll be in and out. We just need to pass the budget. But thank you for your time. If I don't see the rest of you until the fall or a special session this summer, again, it was lovely to work with you over the last 3 weeks, and I'm really excited for the rest of the year. Good luck on finals. Have a good summer. I hope that you rest. Gabby, will you gavel us out?